Welcome everyone. This is your own channel Learner Saga. In this video we will discuss the poem A Legend of the Northland by the American poetess Phoebe Cary. But before starting, I like to request you to press the like button and subscribe the channel if you are new, and also to share and comment on the video. So without wasting any time, let's begin. A Legend of the Northland. And as I told you, the poetess was Phoebe Cary. She was an American poet. As the very title suggests, that it's a legend of Northland. What does the word legend mean? A legend means any old historical story that has passed on from generation to generation. And here in this case, the legend is of the Northland. Now what is Northland? Northland is the name of the area near the North Pole. So the title suggests the story of the area near the North Pole that has passed on from generation to generation. A Legend of the Northland. This poem narrates the legend of an old lady who angered Saint Peter because of her greed. So in this story, we will see that an old lady who was also very greedy, and out of her greed, she angered Saint Peter. Saint Peter was the apostle of Jesus Christ. He was one of the followers of Jesus Christ. The poem is a ballad. The poem is a ballad. Now, what is a ballad? A ballad is a part of a folk culture that comprises traditional stories that are passed on from generation to generation. And a ballad tells the story in short stanzas also. In this poem, each stanza has 4 lines. You can see here that each stanza has 4 lines. And there are 16 stanzas, so total 64 lines. That means the poem A Legend of the Northland, as written by the American poetess, is a ballad. What is a ballad? I told you earlier that it's of something folk culture having some traditional stories. That means the story of the Northland, that is the area of near the North Pole, and we will learn this story here. So let's start. Away, away in the Northland, where the hours of the day are few, and the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through. Away, away, here it means far away. Far away in the place called Northland, hours of the days are few. That means the duration of the day is very less there. And here day means, as it says, where the hours of the day are few and the nights are so long in winter. During winter season, the nights are very long there, and the nights are so long that they means the people residing there cannot sleep them through. The people residing there, they cannot sleep the nights. Them here suggests the nights, the wintry nights. So away, away in the Northland, in far away in the Northland, where the hours of the day are few. We know that in the North Pole, that the duration of the day is very less. But in winter season, the nights are very long. In this first stanza, it is said that the nights are so long in winter time that the people over there, they cannot sleep them through. Cannot sleep them through means the poet here emphasizes that the duration of the night during winter is so long in the Northland that the people cannot sleep them through. When they wake up after sleep, it is still night time, as the nights are very long there. Okay, so this is the first stanza about where they harness the swift reindeer to the sledges when it snows, and the children look like bears' cubs in their funny furry clothes. Where they harness, where they tie. Harness is a verb, it means tie. Where they tie, where they ties a knot. The swift reindeer. Swift means the quick, prompt, rapid. Reindeer. Reindeer is a deer found in cold region to draw sledge. Where they harness the swift reindeer to the sledges. Where means in the Northland, the people, they tie the quick moving reindeer, a particular kind of deer, to the sledges. Sledges means the animal drawn carriages used for transportation over snow when it snows. So in the North Pole, the people, they tie the quick moving reindeer to a cart that is called sledges, particularly when it snows, when snow falls, and the children look like bears' cubs in their funny furry clothes. And the children, they look very cute there, and they look like the cubs of bear, as their attire are very funny. Their garments that they wear are very funny because of their furry clothes, the clothes that are made of fur. They tell them a curious story. I don't believe it is true, and yet you may learn a lesson if I tell the tale to you. They tell them a curious story. They means the people, the elder people, the guardian you may say. They tell them. Them means the little ones, the children. So the elders, they tell the children a very curious story. Curious means inquisitive, you may say, or odd or strange. I don't believe it is true. The poetess says that she doesn't believe in this, that whether the story is true. And yet you may learn a lesson if I tell the tale to you. Although the poetess doesn't believe in this story, yet if she is to tell the tale to us, if she is to tell the story to us, probably we might have some lesson from that. So here the two words tell, T-E-L-L, tell, and T-A-L-E, tell, you can have the rhetorical device here, the literary device, a pun. There are two words having the same pronunciation, but the meaning is different, the spelling is different. First of all, tell, T-E-L-L, means to speak, and T-A-L-E means story. So this third stanza, it says, in the Northland, the elder people, the guardian, they tell their children a strange story, which our poetess doesn't believe to be true. But if she says this story to us, she suggests that there may be some lesson that might be very useful for us also. Once, when the good Saint Peter lived in the world below and walked about it, preaching, just as he did. So the story. Now the poetess is starting the story. What happened? Once upon a time, when the good Saint Peter, who was Saint Peter? I told you, Saint Peter was one of the followers of Jesus Christ. He lived in the world below. In the world below means in this earth, and walked about it preaching. He was roaming. He was roaming in order to preach, in order to give sermons. Preaching means giving sermons or religious views, just as he did, as it was his work, as he was a saint. So it was quite usual, it was quite common for him that he would preach people. He would give some sermons, gospeling people. So the story was of one such day when the good Saint Peter, he was the apostle or the follower of Jesus Christ. During those days, he used to live in the world, in the earth, and he was preaching people, walking about it, meaning moving here and there, trying to preach people, just as he did. So it was his duty. We all should know this. He came to the door of a cottage, in travelling round the earth, where a little woman was making cakes and baking them on the hearth. So as he was moving about, preaching about, he came to the door of a cottage. He arrives at the door of a cottage. In travelling round the earth, as he was moving round the earth in order to give sermons, where a little woman was making cakes. And he found there, a woman was there, a little woman. He was making cakes and baking them on the hearth. And after, and when he met the woman, she was baking the cakes. The woman was baking the cakes on the fireplace. Hearth means the fireplace, the stove, you may say. So the fourth stanza, this is the fifth stanza, and here it is said that while trying to preach the people around the world, good Saint Peter, he came across a little woman who was making cakes. And in order to make the cakes, she was baking them on the fireplace. And being faint with fasting, for the day was almost done, he asked her from her store of cakes to give him a single one. Now you can understand here that as he was very fatigued, as he was very tired, as he was roaming about trying to preach people, he was very hungry. He was feeling hungry, good Saint Peter, and due to his hunger, he was as if he was to faint. For the day was almost done. As the day was almost done means he was completed his duty to give sermons for that day. It was over. So after finishing his duty during that day, he asked that little woman to give her from her store of cakes a single one, a single cake. Store of cakes means she was making the cakes and placing it in store. So from her store of cakes, good Saint Peter asks her to give him a single piece of cake, a single cake. And fasting means, not to eat. So she made a very little cake, but as it baking lay, she looked at it and thought it seemed too large to give away. Now this is the most striking thing. So she made a very little cake. On being asked by the good Saint Peter, the little woman, she made a very small cake. But as it baking lay, so when she tried to bake the cake, lying it on the hearth, she looked at it and thought, and it appeared to her that the cake is too large to give away. Too large to give away means the cake is so large that she cannot give that away. So you can understand that the woman was very greedy. She was not willing to part with the cake. This stanza says that on being requested by the good Saint Peter to give him a single cake, the lady, however, she agreed. She tried to bake a cake. The cake was very little, and while she was trying to bake that, she looked at it and thought that probably the cake is very large, so I should not give this cake to the good Saint Peter. Therefore she needed another, and still a smaller one. But it looked, when she turned it over, as large as the first had done. So here it also said that she needed another. Needed means she made another dough. In order to make the cake, she made another dough, because she was not willing to give the first one that she tried. According to her, that cake was very big to give Saint Peter, so she needed another. So she made another dough, and still a smaller one, and it is smaller than the first one. But it looked, when she turned it over, as large as the first had done. But when she turned it over on the hearth in order to bake that, she found the second one is as large as the first one had. As the first one was, so is the second one. That means the woman was very greedy. She was not in any way, she was not ready to give a single cake to the good Saint Peter. Then she took a tiny scrap of dough and rolled it flat and baked it thin as a wafer, but she couldn't part with that. So when her second attempt also proved futile for her, she thought the second one also very big. She took a tiny scrap of dough after. This is third time that she tried to make a cake for the good Saint Peter. And here she took a tiny means small, scrap. Scrap means very small amount of dough she took and rolled it flat. In order to make the cake, she rolled it very flat and baked it thin as a wafer. A wafer, is very thin. So she baked it as thin as a wafer. But she couldn't part with that also. Part with means to get separated. She again found that piece, the wafer-like piece of cake, very large to give away. So she couldn't part with that. She was not able to give that too away. For she said, "My cakes that seem too small when I eat of them myself are yet too large to give away." So she put them on the shelf. So she explained to Saint Peter. She said, "My cakes that seem too small when I eat of them myself." That means when I eat my cakes, they appear very small because I am eating them. I find them so tasty, so delicious that I think they are very small. I should eat more. Are yet too large to give away. But if I am to give it to you, then I find these small cakes are very large. That's why she put them on the shelf. That's why she placed them again on the shelf store of the cakes. Then good Saint Peter grew angry, for he was hungry and faint, and surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint. Here good Saint Peter, he became angry, for he was hungry because he was very much hungry, and faint as he was very much hungry, so he was about to become faint. Faint means to get senseless, and surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint. And during that time, particularly when the saint was so much driven by hunger that he was about to faint, in that time particularly, such a woman was very surely enough person to provoke, to instigate a saint. Provoke means to instigate or to make angry. So this stanza says, as the good Saint Peter, he was very angry with hunger. The woman was not in any way finding her cakes enough to give away to the good Saint Peter, as the woman was finding her cakes too large to part with. That's why good Saint Peter became very angry. And such a woman, such kind of woman as this little woman was, she was enough to provoke a saint, to make a saint angry. And he said, "You are far too selfish to dwell in a human form, to have both food and shelter, and fire to keep you warm." And he said, that means the apostle of Jesus Christ, Saint Peter, he said, "You are far too selfish. You are very selfish. You, the old woman, you are very selfish to dwell in a human form, and you do not deserve to be a human. You are living, your soul is living in a human body, so you don't deserve this." Dwell means to reside. Human form means human body, human structure. To have both food and shelter, and the Almighty have provided you with both food and shelter and fire. So the three things, you have got food, you have got shelter, and you have got fire to keep you warm. In order to survive, you have got everything the God has provided you. But you are such a person, if you are such a selfish person, that you don't deserve to remain a human being anymore. Now you shall build as the birds do, and shall get your scanty food by boring and boring and boring all day in the hard, dry wood. So here the apostle cursed the old woman. He said that now you shall build as the birds do. You will build your own home, your own center, like the birds do. and shall get your scanty food by boring and boring and boring. Boring means making a hole. So as a bird, as a woodpecker particularly, bores or makes a hole in a tree, similarly you will do that all day in the hard dry wood, and your abode, your shelter will be in the trees of the wood, the hardwood. Then up she went to the chimney, never speaking a word, and out of the top flew a woodpecker, for she was changed to a bird. Then up she went, that means she went up through the chimney. As soon as the good Saint Peter cursed her, she transformed into a woodpecker, and instantly she flew up through the chimney. She didn't have the opportunity to speak a word, and out of the chimney she flew. Her body was changed into a bird. She had a scarlet cap on her head, and that was left the same. But all the rest of her clothes were burned black as a coal in the flame. It says that after becoming a woodpecker, what happened? She had one scarlet cap on her head. Scarlet means bright red cap, and that was left the same. That means although she became a woodpecker, still the scarlet cap was on the bird's head, but all the rest of her clothes were burned. Except the scarlet cap, everything was burned. It was burnt black as a coal in the flame. The red colored cap was there on the bird's head, but the woman's remaining clothes had burnt to ashes and turned black in color, just like the coal. And every country schoolboy has seen her in the wood, where she lives in the trees till this very day, boring and boring for food. And it is said that every country schoolboy, country means village, here country means village, every village schoolboy, every rural schoolboy has seen her in the wood. They have seen her in the wood, in the jungle. This kind of bird having a scarlet, bright red cap on its head. Such kind of bird has been seen by every rural schoolboy in the jungle, where she lives in the trees till this very day, boring and boring for food. And it is said that the bird still lives in the jungle, in the trees, and the bird tries to bore and bore, that means tries to make hole in order to survive. So this is the story about, this is a ballad. As you can see here, a ballad is a song narrating a story in short stanzas. Ballads are a part of folk culture, of popular culture, and are passed on orally from generation to the next. A Legend of the Northland is a ballad. So we have completed the poem. The poem is a ballad as we have studied it, and the story is about greed. So what is the moral? The moral of the story is one shouldn't be greedy. This is the moral or the message. As in the, here you can see in the third stanza, yet you may learn a lesson. So what is the lesson? The lesson is, or the moral or the message is, that one shouldn't be greedy. Now what is the rhyme scheme? The rhyme scheme of the poem is ABCB. Northland. You can see here the first line ends with Northland and it matches away, away in the Northland, where the hours of the day are few and the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through. So A, B, C, B. Few is matching with through. Okay students, we have completed, and regarding the literary device, there are some similes you can see where the okay, in this stanza we can see, if I tell the tale to you, this is an example of pun. Okay, pun means there are two words having the same pronunciation having different meanings, and here some of the similes are there, such as in this paragraph, in this stanza, sorry, black as a coal in the flame. This is an example of simile. Another one is hyperbaton. You can have that here. Then up she went. This is an example of hyperbaton. A hyperbaton is a rhetorical device where the regular grammatical order is inversed. Here you can see up she went. Okay, so this is an example of hyperbaton. So we have completed the poem. Again, I would like to request you to press the like button and subscribe the channel if you are new. And if you find any problem, please write your comment in the comment box. I will try to solve your problem. Hoping to meet you in the next video. Goodbye.